On the Zone, we had one of the better fights this year, and on ESPN, one of the biggest upsets of the year. We also have some news on Naoya Inoue, Teofimo Lopez, and Keyshawn Davis. This is PYP Boxing. Let's get it cracking.
Putazos y Pendejadas Podcast.
On ESPN, Jaime Munguia was upset by Bruno Surace. I don't know what to say about this, Mark. I did not see that coming. Munguia was knocked out in the 6th round. The only thing I predicted right about that fight was the over-under. It was at 4.5 rounds. I thought it would go 5 at least, and it did. It went 6. But Munguia getting dropped and then getting a fast count in his own hometown, and we'll get to that in a minute, none of that was on my radar. Surace only had 4 KOs in 27 fights. He's never fought outside of France. Munguia was a 25-1 favorite. This absolutely should not have happened, but it did. So what does it mean? Was Munguia overrated? At 28 years old with 46 fights, is he shot? And does this say anything about Canelo Alvarez?
Yeah, let's answer your questions there. Hell no, man. Munguia is not shot. Hell no, he's not done. He's only 28. Did he make a bunch of mistakes? Hell yeah. Does he need a trainer? Heck yeah. Look, man, Eric Morales is not the answer here. Munguia needs to pick somebody. I think he's become a little bit of a diva because he has become pretty popular in Mexico. He had some arguments with Roach there. I guess they didn't agree on where to train. He bought a new gym over in, Big Bear, and he's not going to be able to bring Roach with him. I guess there's a conflict there. So he's back with Eric Morales, who's a part-timer, man. In my opinion, he's a novice. Trainers nowadays, they have big teams. They're dedicated. They're there every single day. Eric's got podcasts. He's a politician. And I think Munguia needs to get himself a serious trainer. He looked the best he ever did with Freddie Roach. I hope he realizes that and goes back to him, or maybe Fernando Beltran or somebody talks some sense into him, because even Fernando Beltran had a look on his face like, geez, man, he was sad. The whole crowd was sad when they knocked him out and he got that fast count like you mentioned.
He's done. Oh my God.
I couldn't believe the fast count, man. But right? The crowd stopped cheering.
In his hometown, he got fast counted like that.
Yeah. And then everybody was stunned. The crowd was completely quiet. The fast count happened. He waves it off so quick. Everybody's still in shock. The arena was quiet. Everybody was shocked. You could hear the Frenchman celebrating. A big, crazy moment, but it doesn't mean he's done. I mean, even though he looked really, really bad, he was pretty much doing what he wanted to do in there early. He knocked that kid through the ropes. None of us saw him getting up, shaking it off, and doing what he did, but he's definitely not over. He just needs to get serious with a trainer and really get serious about his career again.
Yeah, and I agree with you what you said about the trainer part. I also think Munguia looked or was showing progress under Roach. He was correcting a lot of things. He wasn't just trying to outfight his opponents. He was actually setting up his offense. And even though Roach isn't considered a defensive coach, he's more of an offensive coach. Munguia was looking better defensively too. But what about that hometown curse, bro? I'm telling you, man, it's not the advantage that it used to be. Plenty of fighters recently, they struggle when they fight in their hometowns, man. Look, to speak about some of those things you were doing with Munguia, just looking awful in that fight. Yeah, it reared its ugly head again. I noticed, like, the biggest thing to me that stood out was he kept dropping his guard all night. He would bend at the waist trying to duck under punches or weave, and he'd drop his hands right at his waist. I mean, the dude thought he was James Toney or something, bro. Like, you're not James Toney. Stop doing that, man. And Surace was looking for that counter right hand over the left hook. He was looking for that all night, man. And that is what your corner is supposed to be there for, right? They're supposed to see those things. And I mean, first of all, they're supposed to correct that shit in camp, okay? But when the fight is happening and it's happening in real time, they're supposed to make you aware. Now, I don't know if they did that. You know, we didn't have access to the corner during every round, but if they did or they didn't, Munguia didn't make the adjustment either way, and it's just not a good look. You're right. I think Eric Morales, probably my favorite fighter. He's a great fighter, not a great trainer. And about that count, man, that I'm glad you saw that too, dude. It seemed weird to me that count was so quick, right? When you compare it to other referee counts, they usually do the 1,000, 1,000. He didn't even get that, bro. It was like 8, 9, you're out. It seemed quick, but Munguia didn't protest. You know, he didn't say, hey, that's not fair. So, doesn't matter in the end. But Mark, people are already jumping on Canelo. If you read online, the memes and the videos are coming out on YouTube already. People are trying to clown Canelo for this, man. Since he didn't stop Munguia, but this guy did, they say it makes Canelo look bad. Think about this, bro. If you just look at it logically, Canelo stopped Caleb Plant, right? But Benavidez couldn't. So does that mean Benavidez shouldn't fight Canelo? He's not as good as Canelo, so he shouldn't fight him. Is anybody saying that?
Yeah, no,
or look at Canelo and Munguia. Canelo couldn't stop John Ryder, but Munguia did. Does that make Munguia better than Canelo? All this A, B, C, A versus B and C, all that shit, that triangle theory, man, you can't apply it to boxing. It's time and time again, just shows that it doesn't matter. I don't know if Munguia is damaged goods or not. You're right, he's only 28 years old, but there's a lot of wear and tear on those tires, man. He didn't look good prior to that knockout. He fought very sloppily in that fight. He was overextending on his punches. He was off balance a lot. But this is boxing. A bad day at the office in this sport can be career changing. We'll have to see what happens next. If Munguia gets back in the ring at some point, that's when we'll know for sure. But congrats to Surace. He got France their revenge for the Battle of Puebla, and he just set himself up for another big fight, man. Moving on to the zone, Mark. Fight of the night has to go to Rocha and Curiel. That main event over there was a great main event. They were over in Ontario, California. I mean, this fight ended in a split draw. Went 12 rounds, and I couldn't agree with that verdict more. I thought that was a very appropriate decision. This fight had back and forth action in every round. Mark, I was looking at one guy's head, and it snapped back 2 or 3 times from punches. And then right after that, the other guy's head would snap back 2 or 3 times. And it was like that almost throughout the whole fight. Is very fitting that it ended in a draw. And I think there just has to be a rematch, whether it's right away or if they both take a fight in between. They need to do this again, don't they?
Yeah, listen, it was a super intense fight. A lot of good technique, a lot of punches being landed on both parts. Nobody would give an inch though. Like nobody would completely dominate. They were both really solid in their defense as well. I would love to see it again. It was one of the fights of the year. There was several good fights this year, but I have to review them all, but definitely up there, man, especially, fresh in our minds last night. Every single second of this fight was contested by both guys. I believe Rocha won the body by a huge number, and also Curiel won the jab game by a huge number. I think he landed 81 jabs to Rocha's 33. And but Rocha went heavy to the body, and Curiel didn't even land one jab to the body. So I think that's the adjustment both guys needs to do. Curiel needs to capitalize on winning the jab battle. You land 81 to 33, you should be winning or knock them out. They're evenly matched. You need to go a little bit extra when you're evenly matched with somebody like Marquez was with Pacquiao. And each of those guys had success when one of them landed more combinations than the other and more definitive ones. Whoever lands that 6 to 8 punch combinations in the next one wins, or whoever figures out how to dominate the success that they had, like Rocha going to the body. He should have figured out a way to capitalize and knock him out upstairs, but it's tough with a guy like Curiel and Rocha who both don't want to give an inch, David. Real even matchup. I'd like to see it again.
Yeah, the zone guys said that Curiel is listed as 5'8" and Rocha is 5'10". But I was like, no way, man. Curiel looked like the bigger fighter in there. And despite Curiel's KO ratio, it also seemed to me Rocha's punches were just as hard as Curiel's, like punch for punch. Yeah, I agree with you on those stats, man. It seemed to me both guys had the right game plan, and they stuck with it throughout the fight. Rocha was throwing a lot of body shots, and you could see that was slowing Curiel down a little bit, and it backed him up because he was very aggressive early in that fight. And Rocha was forcing Curiel on the back foot a lot. Curiel was mixing up his shots really well, too. I thought that was awesome, and he was going really hard on that uppercut because it kept landing. It seemed like Rocha couldn't block that because he had that pillar defense where you have your hands like this. The uppercut would just go right up the middle. You know, another thing that surprised me, man, before the fight, I was listening to the guys in their interviews. There was a lot of animosity between these guys, man. They were going at it. They didn't really like each other going into this fight. It's probably why it was a really good fight in the end. But you know what I liked was after the fight was over, they absolutely showed a lot of respect for each other. I thought that was really good. You know, most of the times you see that in boxing after a good fight, the guys will you know, give each other their props. This may not be fight of the year, but it has to be on the list. It wasn't an all-out brawl. There was some very good boxing in this fight, which I think gives it a little extra consideration. I'll need to look over the fights of this year to be sure, but I'm pretty sure it's got to be top 5. It's got to be top 5.
Yeah, definitely top 5. Those great fights this year.
Moving on to some news and notes. Our boy, Naoya Inoue, got hit by the injury bug. It wasn't him. It was his opponent. Sam Goodman of Australia was slated to challenge Naoya Inoue in December, but he had to pull out due to a cut over his eye. He suffered it on the last day of sparring. Can you imagine that? I think that's really too bad, man. I've gotten used to seeing these annual end-of-year cards that they put on in Japan. It would have been Inoue's 3rd fight of the year, and I think that's a great thing for boxing. Their top stars should always be active. You know, this guy, Sam Goodman's turning out to be a headache, Mark. This isn't the first time that he's been injured and had to postpone this fight. And now here we are again with the same thing, another injury he's suffering. And I mean, is this guy just snake bitten, or do you think there's some fishy work here and he's trying to wait Inoue out?
I don't know, man.
It was supposed to be the last sparring day.
I know he's cut, and you can't help a cut, but this is all on you. This whole cut is your fault. It's still going to go on. I think right now, I believe the cut. I do. I believe the cut. But I guess what I'm trying to say is Sam Goodman is probably benefiting. I think he needed more time anyway to figure out a game plan. And I think he's probably happy about it. I'm not. But it's suspect, man. It's definitely suspect. I don't like it. I think he's buying time somehow. There's a cut. What can I say? But, I mean, I think he's buying time.
Right? Something's going on. Something's going on. It's definitely fishy.
Fucking up my New Year's.
Yo, moving on. We had talked about Teofimo Lopez and a possible fight with Boots. Looks like neither of us, well, I remember we said this. Neither of us liked this fight, and turns out it's not happening. We've been hearing rumbles now that the focus could be towards making fights with either Ryan Garcia or a rematch with George Kambosos. Thoughts on those two potential fights?
I like the one with Ryan Garcia, man. If he fights George Kambosos, I'd be pissed.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, look, he's being a diva. I mean, I'd be pissed at Teo. I like George Kambosos. But Teo's been on this higher than the almighty guy that I can't fight a Ryan Garcia or I need to fight a Crawford or a Canelo. That's the status that I'm on. Now you're mentioning Ryan and Kambosos. I like the Ryan one because it's entertaining and it's going to be a big fight because of how popular Ryan is. But come on, man. If you fight George Kambosos, man, just to stay active, that's a joke after everything you've been through in the media, calling people racial slurs and things like that. And maybe some fans are giving you a pass because you deserve these big fights. And maybe some people think you are at that status. But after all that, and then you go fight George Kambosos, man, I'm done with Teo if he does that.
Whoa. I mean, bro, I like both fights. I think, okay.
I like the fights, but the audacity of him thinking I'm up here, I'm not gonna fight a George Kambosos. Ha ha ha. I'm Teo, and now you're gonna go fight him. I like the fight. I'm not saying that Kambosos is a chump, but after acting like that, doesn't even make me want to watch it.
Well, I think it's they both serve a purpose, right? Obviously, Lopez versus Garcia is draws more eyes in the U.S., but a Cambosos versus Lopez rematch could make just as much money, maybe even more money in Australia. Now, look, Lopez versus Garcia, I think both actually should happen, right? And this is why. Lopez versus Garcia wouldn't happen until Ryan's suspension is up, and that's what, April of 2025. All right. Both of these fights can happen from between now and then. Teofimo's last fight was this past June, the end of June. Let's call it July, right? It was at the end of June. Let's call it July. If he waits on Ryan, that could only happen about June or July because Ryan's off suspension. You got to give time to announce the fight and then train 8-week to 10-week camp. That would put you right around May or June. So that's going to make almost a year out of the ring for Teofimo Lopez. Mind you, Ryan is probably having this exhibition match in Japan. So he's at least going to see some ring action between now and then. Now, if he takes the Cambosos fight, that would be good for him, not only from an activity standpoint as a fight that he could have in between, but it might help Teofimo fight off some of those ghosts from his first loss as well. Don't forget, he never avenged that loss versus Cambosos. And now with Teofimo Lopez training with Eddie Reynoso, getting another training camp in, working on game plans for a particular opponent, getting familiar with your camp, getting familiar with your trainer, that's really important for that move too. So, and just to be clear, Oscar's the one that's putting this out there. Oscar's saying that he would like that, and they have Turki Al-Sheikh backing that up, so Turki can step in and bankroll that fight and make it more enticing for him. Of course, it's still not, it's all talk. It's all talk right now. But that would be quite a resume, man. And I'm not the biggest fan of Ryan. I think he acts, I'm not a big fan of how he acts outside of the ring. But inside of the ring, if he really does pursue this Teofimo Lopez fight, you got to say, man, that dude is trying to make shit happen in the sport.
Yeah, man. Salute to Ryan. Ryan is fighting everybody.
Well, we'll see, right? We'll see. I mean, at least he talks the talk. He's trying to walk the walk.
I like it, David. I like the way you put it. If it happens, it goes down that way, I'm not mad. Okay, Cambosos probably make a little bit of money out there in Australia.
Oh, absolutely.
A little bit. And then you set up the Ryan big money. I like that. Okay, you put it that way, I'm okay with it. If he's going to fight Ryan at the end.
Yeah, I could see it working out that way. It would take a lot for that to happen, but that would be an ideal situation. Mark, moving on. Another one of the prospects, we've covered this guy a lot, Keyshawn Davis, and Dennis Berinchyk is in the works. Top Rank is in the midst of finalizing a WBO title match between the champion Dennis Berinchyk, who's 19-0 with 9 KOs, against the young contender Keyshawn Davis, who's 12-0 with 8 KOs. According to Mike Coppinger from ESPN.com, the fight's scheduled for February 14th at MSG, bro. Berinchyk won the vacant WBO title versus Navarrete back in May. He looked good getting a split decision win versus Navarrete, but Mark, he's 36 years old. And since 2022, he's only fought once per year since, and he hasn't been that active throughout his whole career. Think about this, bro. Berinchyk turned professional in 2015. And he only has 7 more fights than Keyshawn, who started his career 6 years later in 2021. Despite all that, Coppinger says Davis is probably going to be the favorite in that fight. Does that sound right to you?
Yes, it does sound right to me. Because when Berinchyk fought Navarrete, we didn't have the real Navarrete. He was hurt. And he wasn't Navarrete anyway. He wasn't the Navarrete we just saw. So Berinchyk got, lucky with a Navarrete that he got who was hurt and pretty out of shape. So no, it's not. It sounds perfect to me. Keyshawn has shown that he's a little killer, man. He's a beast. He's little bro, and he's coming. I'm a big Keyshawn Davis fan. He should be the favored. He's got a. I mean, both of them have Olympic pedigree.
Yep.
Berinchyk is 36 years old. Listen, it's nobody's fault. Those guys, they spend their career almost over there in the amateurs. And this is great for Top Rank to do. They saw the opening. Berinchyk won. I don't think they ever thought that this was not going to be in the plans. I mean, this is a great luck for Keyshawn Davis that there's a champion at 36 years old who beat a half-beaten Navarrete waiting to be taken for the belt. Keyshawn is going to have a belt, and this is going to make that division super interesting now that little bro's going to have a belt. And Top Rank took the opportunity to do this. Hats off to them. They see the opening to get him a legitimate title. Ooh, man.
So you don't think this is too soon for Keyshawn?
No, it's not too soon for Keyshawn. No, he's good now. Why wait? Why wait? He's good now.
I agree with you. I think he is good now, but Davis is younger, man. He's more inexperienced. He's only fought 80 rounds to Berinchy's 154 rounds. That's almost twice as many, bro. And Berinchyk, man, I don't know. Maybe I rate him more highly than you do, but he has good footwork. He's aggressive, but he fights very intelligently. And remember, he's from that same school of Ukrainian Olympic team that had Lomachenko and Usyk. He was on that squad too. So Berinchyk is no joke, man. He's no joke. He does have a pressure fighting style, which does kind of work in Keyshawn's favor. But he's not your common pressure fighter. He knows how to change the angles and swarm you a little bit and get out of the way when he needs to get out of the way. So I don't think this is an easy touch, but the thing that I don't like is a 36-year-old fighter, and he's not as active as he should be. So I think Keyshawn's got his work cut out for him in this fight. I don't know that I would make him a favorite. I'm feeling right now the way I'm feeling 50-50 fight. But we don't know, right? Keyshawn's probably hitting his stride right now. His confidence is at an all-time high. That can do wonders for a fighter, and it could move him to another level that we haven't seen yet.
He's still a kid. He absolutely loves the sport. Did you see him on IG when he found out about this? He was jumping on the couch like a little kid, man, just happy as hell that he's going to be a champ. I mean, he's ready, man.
Yeah, man. It's a good fight. I like the fight. I think it shakes things up at 135 pounds. I'm down for it. I don't want to be the manager. I don't want to play the manager role. I want to see fights. So this is happening. They're pushing for it. Keyshawn's all for it. Shit, let's see it, man. Well, that's it for today on this episode, man. We covered a lot in the sport. We still have the Usyk, Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk fight coming up. That card also took some hits on the injury tip. Some people had to get pulled out, sicknesses. You remember that? Yeah, man, we'll cover that on the next time, though. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let us know what you thought about the fights this weekend. And what do you think about some of the upcoming news? What should Teofimo Lopez do? Should he wait out for Ryan Garcia? Is that a fight he should pursue? Should he try to go for Cambosos in a rematch? And who do you got in Keyshawn versus Berinchyk? As always, PYP will come at you again on the next video. Peace out.